Good afternoon. I'm Julie Youngquist with Streetwise. Today I'm joined by my friend Scott Marvel. You are watching Streetwise live on CanTV 21. We're also streaming live on cantv.org/hotline. You're on with Streetwise for the next 25 minutes. We will be talking about the Streetwise model. We'll interview Scott Marvel of Give a Shirt, an annual benefit pop-up store with hand-screened, custom-designed t-shirts made by local artists and sold on the streets in collaboration with Streetwise vendors, with 100% of the proceeds that benefit Streetwise and our vendors. We'll also talk about our current issue this week with Paul McCartney on the cover. This article was first published by our sister street paper in Australia, so we look forward to hearing about that. For those of you who don't know, Streetwise started 25 years ago as a way for homeless to earn money through the dignity of selling a newspaper instead of begging for charity on the streets. 25 years later, here we are, and now 12,000 of our fellow Chicagoans have been given a hand up, not a handout, through selling the magazine and earning a profit on each sale. We also have a jobs program where our employment specialists work with individuals to prepare them for and enter into the traditional job market. We have a team that can assist with housing referrals, vital records, assistance with benefits and counseling, and we also provide food on site. So it's a great organization. We'll talk more about some of the work that we're doing in partnership with Give a Shirt that really is helping our homeless neighbors or at risk of homeless individuals. So we're going to get started. It's all loud out there. So we're going to get started with Scott Marvel from Give a Shirt. Here's from our holiday party that we had. Give a Shirt is a local charity that puts the talents of local artists back to the community. And you can join the conversation with Scott this afternoon by dialing 312-738-1060. Scott, welcome to Streetwise Live.
You're good at that. That's amazing. I noticed on the first page, though, it said that Suzanne was the guest. Did I bump Suzanne?
You did not bump Suzanne.
Okay. Sorry if I did, Suzanne.
No. All right, Scott. Well, let's start at the beginning. What is the origin of Give a Shirt?
Well, Daily Planet, the company I work with, we make TV commercials. And we started a graphics department, design team. And I decided to start a t-shirt company, kind of show clients that we can do great design as well. So I started a company called Teetsy. And Teetsy was started by myself and at the time 4 graphics people. And each of us put in 2 designs. And it was just a way to say, hey, we're doing this great design. We weren't necessarily at the time getting all of the work we wanted from the client, so we wanted to be forward about it and show that we were doing great design. So Teetsy, I was doing posters, I was doing t-shirts. I wanted to, when I did street festivals, I always noticed I loved the t-shirts being on the street. I liked that idea of, designing is so lonely. You're on a computer, you're not connected to your audience. To see people look at your shirt and to react to it is great marketing advice. and you learn a lot from that, but it's also just, there's something cool about that. And going way back, there used to be this New Order video, the band New Order, where the music video was them in the studio recording a track, putting it on a CD. For those of you that don't know, a CD looks like a metal coaster. Music used to be put on it before streaming. And then they take that track that they just recorded in the studio to a club, and they sit up in the DJ booth and watch people dance to that. That always impressed me. Like, how can I get design to the street? So working at Daily Planet at Franklin and Superior, I walked past a Starbucks at Chicago and Franklin. There was a guy out there shaking a cup. His name's Tony. You get a $4 coffee, you come out, pretty hard not to give him $1. You've just spent $4 on a black coffee. So one day he said, it was a Friday I think, and I was actually on my way to lunch. He said, is there any way you can help me with more? I've got a job interview Monday. I need to look good for the job interview. I said, I've got a t-shirt company. I can get you shirts, meaning wholesale blank shirts. Like, what's your size? He said, that's great. Let me think about it. I go to lunch, I come back. He's thinking design shirts to sell. So I did a design just for him, gave him 20 shirts. He sold them for $10 each, all in one day. So I did that a few times with him, and I kept thinking, how can this be bigger?
Right.
And I had this idea. I talked to Inspiration Kitchen about, like, maybe I can teach people how to screen shirts. Maybe the Logan Square Art or the farmer's market. We can have a booth, and we can have someone supported every year or every week. You know, like this one's supported by Lulu Cafe. They bought all the blank stock. We're out there screening the shirts. Just some connection to go straight from this design to someone's pocketbook that needs it.
Right.
And I couldn't put it together, but I kept talking to people and working on that idea and still screening shirts and still making TV commercials and stuff, but it was in the back of my head. And then 1 year, 3 years ago, someone from our industry, Daily Planet's like advertising commercial industry that has a publication, called, and they were doing an article about what are companies like Daily Planet doing for charity around the holidays. I told her this idea of, let's make some shirts, let's give them to people on the street corners to sell, and they can keep all the money.
Right.
And we'll get someone to buy all the blank shirts. And I said, love to do it, don't have the time. She said she had been in charity and not for profit for 20 years. She said, that's a great idea, you should do it. So, like a lot of things in my life, I just said, okay, we'll do it. It was like peer pressure.
Right.
And then we had 2 weeks to put together the first Give a shirt. You remember that. So we contacted Mike, what's his last name?
Namesh.
Mike Namesh.
Chicago Coalition for the Homeless.
But because Janine at Daily Planet knew Mike from his previous gig when he did like the rock and roll charity stuff, she said, let's call that guy. He said, and we told him the idea and said, how do we find people to give these to? Who has the network? He said, you got to talk to Streetwise. Duh. You know, duh. So that's how the journey started. You don't know why you do things necessarily. Sometimes you just do them, and then you don't know what you're going to learn from them. You might think this is why we're doing this is what we want, and then you learn a lot along the way.
Right. So the first pop-up store you said was 3 years ago, so that would have been December of 2016.
Bad at time. But
Let's let people get an understanding of what happens at the pop-up store. We do have a couple pictures that we can show while you're talking, but what happens?
So we found a space, and it's really cool. I always wanted a little like coffee shop or something. So Janine went on a site that's no longer around. I think it turned into something else, but you could rent art galleries or cool spaces for the day. So we rented the Chicago Bridge House Museum.
Here
There
we
it
are
is.
outside of it.
Yeah.
Right at Michigan and Wacker.
You've walked past it 100 times, and you don't know. It's like a little magic door. And it's a vertical space. And you can see in the summertime, they take you down, you see the gears work for, like, there's bridge enthusiasts that don't have a lot to do, I guess. And they're like those train enthusiasts that love bridges. So it's a cool vertical space. And it's right by... One of the things we thought is we've got this group of clients from ad agencies. A lot of the designers the first year were designers from ad agencies. Let's find something centrally located downtown. So that was the reason for that space. That's one of the reasons it works so well. So at the pop-up shop, you're there, I'm there, Janine's there, my sister Pam's there, and then a ton of vendors. People can meet the vendors. The vendors are selling T-shirts just like they sell magazines. And they're outside barking to get people in. The thing I learned in the first year, one of the many things I learned the first year is standing on a street corner watching people pass you by is really hard. It's debilitating.
It's incredibly difficult. We had, coworkers of yours, Streetwise staff standing along Streetwise vendors, getting tips from vendors on how to get people in and how to engage people in the community. It's such a skill, and it's so incredibly difficult to do.
And to not let that rejection in.
Yeah.
And every year, the weather was okay this year. The first year, it was brutally cold. And I think the second year. And so, you always say, oh, it's Chicago. Why are we complaining about the weather? I chose to live here. We're tough. But that's like walking to your work from the train, at the worst, from the train. This is standing outside for 8 hours, barking and standing still, maybe pacing a bit. And people... do what I do, when you see those Greenpeace volunteers or whatever, it's like, I don't know, I got to get to a meeting. You put your head down and you walk a little faster.
Or pretend you're on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one, actually. Yeah. Watch out for Julie. If anyone sees her, she's not on the phone. So that was the one thing we learned, that is really hard. And if you do that every day and you're relying on that to make money, that's got to be just debilitating. And A. Allen that first year told a story of kind of like the ascent of man, but in reverse. When you shake a cup, how you start standing up straight, and then you go down further and further, and in the end you're sitting on the ground looking up at people. You've literally been beaten down
Right.
to the ground.
Well, what's such a nice partnership with Give a Shirt every year is that it's an extension of the Streetwise mission to give people an opportunity to earn an income with dignity. And it really taps into the skills that they've honed as salesmen and saleswomen on the streets. This year, Give a Shirt had 20 designs.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
do these designs come from?
Well, again, a lot of people that I know from the advertising world, and then designers I know from the gig poster t-shirt world. So it's kind of a mix, and people are kind of jumping at the chance to do it, which is really, really cool. Like, people have big hearts, and for some of these people, you know, someone that's making a gig poster probably doesn't have health insurance,
Right.
and they have big times of the year, and holidays they usually have like a Renegade craft fair or some other fair, or they do a lot of sales around Christmas. So they're geared to make some good money at the end of the year for themselves, and they're giving up their time to make a design to help out. And it's a noble feeling when you have something like art. Can art change the world, right? Can my skills change the world? What can I do to make a difference? I think a lot of people are asking that. So when you ask an artist, hey, can you contribute a t-shirt design? I mean, I had one person that I was having a hard time getting him to do something. He said, I could see on his Instagram feed, wow, you've got a lot going on. Are you sure you can do it? Tell me when you need it. I'll stay up all night and do it.
Ugh.
And he did it, and it's a great shirt.
And this is a perfect example of art doing good because everything is donated and 100% of the proceeds go directly to Streetwise and the vendors. So, I mean, it really is kind of the art meets community.
Yeah, and it's what we can do. You know, we're not politicians. We're not billionaire socialites. You know, we aren't social workers. We know very little about that world. And I've been fortunate enough to learn a little bit. It's taken 3 years, but I've started to learn a lot about that. We are screen printers and artists, and we've been given a talent, and it's a gift to be able to use that talent for good, you know?
No, and it's, I mean, the vendors who have participated in this program over the last 3 years, it is like the hottest thing that people want to sign up for and do because it's such a great experience. So this year was pretty impressive. We're breaking fundraising records.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first year, we had no idea, what we were doing, by any means. We had no idea what we were doing. When you look back at it, only in the rearview mirror can you go, wow, we were crazy. And kind of you can say that about every year because we keep upping our game.
Right.
First year, we raised $7,000. So $7,000 in sales, $7,000 went to Streetwise. The second year, last year, it was $23,000. So, and I should say, the first year was $7,000. The second year, I kept saying, I just get these numbers in my head, and I'm not a numbers guy, I'm not an accountant or anything, but I keep thinking 10K, we got to make 10K. And we made $23,000 the second year. So this year I said, I had it in my head, let's do 40. We'll increase the artists to 20 artists, Pam and Janine. I think Janine came up with, let's do ladies cut shirts, which were really, really big.
Which is on the screen now. You can see some of the layout of the shirts in the pop-up store.
And at the end of the second year also, we added, much to my chagrin, we added Give a Shirt logo shirts. Janine kept saying, we should do logo shirts. I said, what are we, Hollister? You know, do logo shirts? Who wants a logo? And they're hugely popular. I mean, and she makes sure I eat crow on that almost every day. I was wrong, you know, and it's been huge. So this year, right now, the current total, if we were like the Jerry Lewis Telethon, we could go to the tote board, is 43,000.
Oh my gosh.
I was saying 40, and I was like, how are we going to get there? We were on WGN, we were on Fox, we were on Channel 5.
We're on Can TV.
We're on Can TV. And we hit 40. And we hit 40, we were so busy with other stuff, and I kept saying to Jean, what's the number? We were arguing about something else. And she said, we're at 41, and walked away. It was like nothing.
Right, it
it's
was
like
a
I
non-event.
thought about this number every morning at 4 a.m. when I'm screen printing. We gotta hit 40, gotta hit 40, gotta hit 40. Every night, I gotta hit 40, and then it just became nothing.
Well, that's an important reminder too. Is like not only did everything get donated, but like that's all your time that is donated. That you were up at 4 a.m. and up until midnight and all hours hand screening every single one of these T-shirts to benefit people, your neighbors who need a hand up.
Yeah, it's a rickety machine in an unfinished basement on the
Oh,
northwest side, and that's kind of cool. You know, Woody Guthrie had, what did he have on his guitar? It said, "This guitar kills fascists," or something like that. And I feel the same way about like this little screen printing machine. I mean, I truly, it might sound weird, and I have questions for you about this, but I would go to bed at night tired. I'd been up at 4, I'd go to work during the day, I'd try to get another design done at night, I'd go to bed at midnight with kind of holding these people that I met in my heart, you know, like A. Allen, Stephen, Big John, who's a poet, you know, that guy, he's so soft-spoken, but when he speaks, he can hit you and just cut through.
Very eloquent.
Yeah. And I don't know, not to turn it around, but I keep thinking, where's the wall? Like for you, you're there every day.
Right.
You're watching people's transformations, and the joy of that must be incredibly rewarding. But talk about turning that off.
Right.
You know.
No, it's hard, and it's amazing to get to know this group of Streetwise vendors and watch these amazing transformations. But also something you had said in another interview we did just about just this whole Chicago community, and I feel like I can go anywhere and I have family, right?
Yeah.
Just because you've gotten to know so many people. But the reason that this transformation is possible is because of some of the partnerships with you. We actually have a caller.
Oh yeah.
Hi, I was wondering if you all provide trade classes to your Streetwise vendors?
Trade classes? Is that can you repeat that?
Yes, trade classes.
We don't provide trade classes. We connect people with trade classes that they're interested in. Maybe we'll start a screen printing trade class, Scott.
It's one of the things I kind of meditated on this year while screen printing. Not because I don't want to do it, but I keep thinking, boy, this could be something someone can learn. You know, it's not, there's a lot of things to learn about it, but it's a learnable skill. And I would love that if there were vendors or other people that would want to do that, to make that a community effort. I enjoyed kind of carrying that. And Brad Moore at work at Daily Planet, we have a press at Daily Planet, he did some of the shirts as well. But I enjoyed It's Time to Listen to Music. It's kind of a time to give back. You know?
Right.
And I enjoyed toward the end of the year doing that. But of course, yeah, that's one of the things I've thought about a lot. Like, how do we grow this? How do we make this more inclusive and more a community thing?
Right. That was a great question. Well, Mr. Marvel, thank you so much for your time. And I actually want to give, you've mentioned a couple times, Pam, Janine.
There they are.
So here are the brains behind Give a Shirt and the great work that's being done on behalf of Streetwise and Streetwise vendors. For more information, you can certainly visit streetwise.org.
And let me say, while you still have that up on the screen,
I'll bring it back.
they aren't really that small. I'm just really, really big. I mean, they're small. They're normal-sized human beings. I'm just kind of big. So that's all.
That's funny. All right,
So do I leave now?
you can go to streetwise.org to learn more about both Streetwise, and then we have our Give a Shirt partnership there as well. Yeah, Scott, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
All right.
you. It was a pleasure.
Now, we are going to bring on Suzanne Haney, our Streetwise editor. Every week, we're taking some time to talk with Suzanne about what's going on in the magazine. Well, what is going on in the magazine is that it's stuck on this table.
Hi. And I'm going to talk about my shirt.
Oh, sure. Before you get started, talk about your shirt.
So this is a shirt. Scott just told me. Jeff Tweedy of Wilco, the Chicago band, saw this sign with a street person, and he bought the sign from him, posted it in his office, and when it came time for them to think about a shirt that they would give to Streetwise, they decided to screen print this. So that's the one I bought for myself, because
Says,
it's
Smile, it won't hurt no one. Thank
yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Nice.
And then I bought another one, which I actually, when I was selling, my pitch was local art, and this was a sale shirt from last year, so I said $5 inside. That's all I said. So this particular shirt says, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle."
Nice.
So our pitch, the Bridge Museum is, of course, at Michigan Avenue in Wacker, and a lady yelled out to me from the second lane of traffic on Michigan Avenue, "How much is that shirt?" I said, $5. She said, "That one?" I said, "Got it." Climbed over the median, walked through one lane of traffic, and stood alongside her car very tight so that no one would hit me, and got the $5. So I kept this because I think that's a really sweet message for someone from Streetwise. So the reason we segued into this is our cover this week is Paul McCartney. And this story, as Julie said, came from one of our sister papers in the International Network of Street Papers. They have a column called Letter to My Younger Self. Paul McCartney actually has done interviews with this paper, but this was an extraordinary interview. When I saw it in another paper, I asked if we could get it actually ahead of when it came on our newswire that we share. I say this because I read interviews all the time, and this is one of the best interviews I've seen in a very long time. There are interviews that have all the pat answers, and you see that more and more. They're like the typical questions and the typical answers. They almost could have been phoned in, or they could have been written by the person's PR person. These questions sounded like Paul really was sitting there with the interviewer. When he was 16, he didn't know how to get a date with a girl. He didn't know whether he should go up and put his arm around her or just talk to her or what he should do. He really wanted to be as suave as James Bond, and he just didn't feel it, surprisingly. He also had lost his mother a couple of years before, and he said that music helped him get on with it. You either get on with it or you don't. So in this particular story, he talks about his music, and he talks about how he happened to be doing errands for an elderly lady, and she turned into the inspiration for Eleanor Rigby and all the lonely people. And he said that she actually had things to tell him. She wasn't just an old person, she had a younger life, and that was an inspiration to him. So that was why this story just resonated with me, and I wanted to use it.
I mean, it does sound, just from the way that you talk about it, that's very just sweet and genuine and from the heart, which we're really fortunate to get from some of our sister papers. That's nice.
So, don't know if I need to tell you any more excerpts of that. Do we need to go into any
but
more?
I mean, it's definitely a great article, and so we just went on the tip of the iceberg with it. But we have just a couple more minutes. Do you want to highlight some of the
calendar items?
Anything that?
The February 1st, I'm going to read this because there's prices in the copy, and I don't want to risk having to say that. That's just not what we're about. We're about just the ideas, not selling anything here. February 1st is Rock the Cure Chicago at 6 to 11 p.m. at Metro, and it's featuring Michael Franti supporting type 1 diabetes research. It's a benefit for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and UChicago Kovler United Cancer Diabetes Center and Friends United. And to get more information, visit metrochicago.com. And the Chi-Town Hip Hop Festival is 8 p.m. on February 2nd at the Portage Theater. That's 4050 North Milwaukee. And VIC presents the festival featuring Gosh, Bridge, C-Block, Three Bangs, Zhu Zhenchen, Zhu Menyang, and Dirty Class, and more. And the Evanston Symphony Orchestra at 2:30 on February 4th. They are doing guitar. They're doing the Rodrigo Guitar Concerto. So that's at Pick Steiger Concert Hall at 50 Arts Circle Drive in Evanston. And also through February 8th is Restaurant Week. And this is, you get special deals on brunch and lunch and dinner. There's 370 restaurants, including 115 new participants. And for information, you go to choosechicago.com, which is the Convention Bureau.
Excellent. All right, well, we're just about to wrap up. Thank you so much for watching Streetwise Live on CAN TV 21. I'm Julie Youngquist with Streetwise. This is Suzanne Haney with Streetwise. We want to say thank you again to Scott Marvel and the entire Give a Shirt team. For more information about Streetwise and our partnership with Give a Shirt and copies of other magazines, past issues, you can go to www.streetwise.org. Please join us next week as we talk with several Streetwise vendors. As Suzanne mentioned, we're part of the International Network of Street Papers. Next week is Vendor Week, and we'll be celebrating the more than 9,000 street paper vendors in 115 countries around the world. with 3 of our very own. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.